Agent Power Huddle is a daily jumpstart, giving you all the tools you need to create an amazing real estate career. Led by top experts in the field, you'll learn how to sell more houses in less time while creating the life you want. Welcome to the Agent Power Huddle.
Good morning. Hope you're doing well. Today we're diving into something that is really one of my favorite topics in sales. And it's probably shifted the way I communicate more than just about anything else that I've learned in my career. And it's the difference between features and benefits. And sometimes this is taught in copywriting classes, but I think this is the way when you communicate really makes a difference. So if you're here with me live, feel free to jump in if you're just listening in. Obviously, listen to the recording and take notes as you go, because as we start to do more buyer presentations, I've done presentations with buyers for most of my career, but I know some people are just starting to figure out, okay, in the next few months, I'm going to have to do buyer presentations. On the listing side, if you're taking listings, my guess is you're doing listing presentations already. The way that you present what you do, not just how you do it, but the benefits of that makes a bigger difference than just about anything. If we got enough folks here to do interactive pieces, we'll do it interactive. Otherwise, I'll just kind of break down the concepts over the next 30 minutes. But at its basics, at its core, if we're looking for the difference between benefits and features, features are just what something does. It's just what something is, right? I like to, and benefits is the reason why you would care about it. In order to figure out what benefits are, it really helps to get empathetic, to put yourself in the space of the person you're talking to, or the person you assume you're going to be talking to, right? If you're going into a buyer consultation or a listing consultation, you don't really know exactly what the person's going to be like, even unless you've had a pretty in-depth conversation before you meet them. But because you've talked to other home sellers or other home buyers, if you can put yourself in their headspace, right? When I say empathetic, you start to figure out if you can think the way they think, right? What's important to them? What are their pain points? What are their hopes, their dreams, their goals? If you can start to think that way and talk into those spaces, that's going to be the benefits for them versus the features are just what you do. Like, for example, a feature that I hear listing agents say all the time is, they sell 97% of their houses. Cool. That's the feature, right? What's the benefit? Why should someone care about that? So before we dive into specifics around, listing appointments and buyer consultations, I like to kind of zoom out and give an example from another industry, because it's almost easier to see when you take something that's like a physical product, like a car, right? I think one of the most obvious features of a car would be seatbelts, right? 20 years ago, 30 years ago, I don't know about you guys, but I mean, it was like you knew you should wear a seatbelt, but these days, no one gets in a car without wearing a seatbelt. It's one of the most obvious things, right? But there's benefit to what the seatbelt is. So if let's say you were shopping for a new car and you walked onto a car lot and the salesperson said, hey, come over here, come here. This car right here, it's got seatbelts. You'd be like, big deal, right? Because features, this is the way you can know it's a feature. Features are typically boring. And unless it's something that you are specifically out searching for, in which case a feature list could be, important to you. Let's say you're looking for a new CRM to keep your real estate prospects organized. And one of the features you're looking for is a way to text from the CRM directly to the client. That's a feature. Now, these days, most CRMs have that, right? It's a basic feature. But let's just say you knew you wanted to be able to text out of your CRM. You've been texting through other platforms or directly through your phone, and you're like, this is a feature I need. If you were specifically out searching for that feature, and you went to a website and it's talking about hey, in a list of features, we have the ability for you to text directly to the client, you'd be like, cool, that's great, I want that. But for most people, they don't go out looking for a list of features, right? In this case of you searching for a new CRM, let's say it was started talking about the benefit of you being able to easily communicate with your clients, right? Let's say it even told a story, because when you talk about features versus benefits, storytelling language is really critically important, right? Let's say you start telling a story, if you're trying to market the CRM, you start telling a story about an agent that has never really had an easy way to communicate with their clients. And finally they stumble upon a way, they're like, oh, you know what? I really need to stay in more easy communication. And you explain how this CRM allowed them to more easily communicate, allowed them to create better rapport, more deals. And by the way, one of the things that we leverage is the ability to text directly out of the platform. That's the benefit that then ties into the actual feature. Back to the car lot, and then we'll move it to the world of real estate for the rest of this call. On the car lot, person says, hey, we got seatbelts. You're like, great, big deal. But let's say they see you walk into the car lot and you got little kids with you, right? Or kids, period. They're talking to you. They figure out you have a family. And they say, I'm just going to assume that when you're shopping for a car, since you have kids, one of the things that's probably important to you is safety, right? You want to make sure that wherever you're going, you get there in one piece, totally safe, correct? Okay, come over here. One of the most important features we have in this car is seatbelts, right? And this car is ranked top. And when you frame it up in that context, it's the same feature. It's still obvious it's seatbelts, but do you see how just putting it in that context of benefit first makes the feature more important, right? Benefit first, then the feature. So let's put this now into the world of listings, and then we'll do some buyer consultation sides. I'm going to rattle off some features that agents typically use, and we'll put them in context of benefit. There's a few ways to open a loop of curiosity when you are using a benefit. I like to, number one, ask a question. It's a great way to open a loop of curiosity, right? You could use a statement of fact, sometimes using a statistic, right? You could tell a story. Those are really the three ways that I like to do it. Ask a question, statement of fact using a statistic, or a statistic, or tell a story. Those are the ways that I typically like to frame up the context of of what the benefit is to draw someone in before then giving the feature. So let's go back to the first feature I threw out in a listing presentation. The feature was, I sell 97% of my houses. Whatever that stat is for you, you figure it out for yourself, right? And I know I just said you could use a stat to open it up. In this case, that stat's not going to draw anybody in. That's like a feature. It's just one of the things you do as an agent is, if you're rattling off your resume, I do this, I do marketing, I do that. I sell 97% of my houses. I sell 98% of my houses. I sell 99% of my listings. Okay, big deal. However, you could tell a story and you could say to the person, like, look, I don't know if you're like a lot of the clients I work with right now, but they've noticed interest rates have been up for the last year. Our inventory volume has been down. And so, houses are still selling well, but it's almost a crapshoot. It's like, is it going to sell well? Is it not? And there's a lot of fear I've noticed in some of my clients around whether or not their home will sell. And if it sells, how long will it take? Right? So one of the things I pride myself on as an agent is that I sell 97% of the listings I take. Right? Do you see how it's the same feature, but when you frame it up around a little story and give it some context? If you're taking notes, write down that word context. Context will go a big deal with that. How about another feature we could talk about is your marketing. We're still in the world of listing presentations. In a minute, I'll move over to the buyer side. But let's say we talk about your marketing, right? Maybe you're really great with video marketing. Okay. Maybe you're really great with printed marketing, whatever it is. Marketing, I'm great with videos. I make incredible videos and get a lot of people to watch your videos. Okay. Fantastic. That's a feature. How do we put it in the context that as you're presenting this to someone, right? Whether you're sitting down face to face or on Zoom or you're talking about it, or if they're reading a website, if you want to make a website that, right? Some of you have copywriting. That's where the words that go on the website. You have copywriting that you have people read or watch prior to someone even meeting you to pre-frame the meeting so that the person's already thinking that you're the right one for the job before they ever meet you, right? We're going to put it in a context like this. If you're going to pre-frame or talk about the fact that you have excellent marketing, right? You can say something like, look, there's only 4 features that affect if a home can sell, right? And how much money it sells for. Do you know what the 4 features are? I'm asking a question. I'm asking a question to bring them in. I'm going to give them some context, right? We have location, condition, price, and the last one's exposure, right? We'll talk about location. We can't change. Condition, we can talk about that in a minute. And pricing we'll come back to, but let's talk about exposure, right? That whether a house sells and no matter how much money it sells for is directly connected to the amount of exposure it receives. So let me talk about something that I pride myself on, which is the marketing we do, right? And now let's see if you do video marketing, right? And you want to use a specific statistic around video. There's all sorts of ways you can draw people in prior to actually talking about what you do. Is this making sense, guys? Those of you on camera, I'm seeing heads nodding. Okay, cool. Let's take the buyer. I want to make sure we spend at least a few minutes on the buyer consultation side, and then we'll open up for Q&A if anyone's got questions. But on the buyer consultation side, go ahead and type it into the chat box if you have one that you want me to use. Otherwise, I'll just use some of the ones that I use in my buyer consultation. Think of a feature something that you do for your buyers that is something that just like, this is what I'm going to do, right? Wait and see if anyone's typing. If not, while you're typing, I'll give you the first one. We'll start here. One of the features of something you might do is previewing houses, right? How many of you have ever previewed a house in your life? You know, you look at the inventory, not looking for a, right? Lori has, okay, Kevin's nodding his head. Previewing, it's something that we do. I like to believe as agents, if you don't know your inventory in your local market, it's hard to be better than Zillow. And as agents, we always want to be better than Zillow. So getting out there and looking at new listings as they come on, especially if you focus on a certain geographic area, is huge. Even if you cover a wide area, right? There's something about knowing more, to always know more than your clients. Our clients are very educated these days, but knowing your inventory is helpful. Gives you your own sense of confidence, lets you speak intelligently, but that's a feature, right? A feature for your clients. How do we turn this now into a benefit? Let's talk about pain points. What are some things on the buyer side that are really important to buyers? What do you think, Kevin?
Right now, I would probably say definitely affordability. That is it. And, you know, one of the pain points I can alleviate is that my wife is a mortgage broker. She's vice president of a mortgage company, and I know who she sleeps with. So, just kidding. So, so, you know, I stay in touch with the transaction and nothing ever falls through the cracks.
Well, I love that. All right. So let's do that one. Then we'll come back to in a minute. We'll come back to previewing. So let's use Kevin's. Kevin just said he's married to a mortgage broker. And one of the things that buyers are looking for would be affordability, right? And so if we're talking affordability, you might start with a question, which is, you could say, look, one of the biggest concerns, one of the biggest, you know, as you're sitting on the buyer, you can say one of the biggest concerns that I hear from buyers these days would be affordability, making sure that they understand what all the costs are and that they can afford the house that they're buying, right? So one of the benefits of working with me is I'm actually married to a loan officer. You're welcome to use anyone you'd like. However, I'm able to get inside information and help you get exactly the costs you need and get those costs down as low as possible, making your home more affordable. Can you see how that would help you in purchasing your house? That's how I end most of these feature benefit statements, is with something called a tie down.
Question mark.
But a question mark at the end, it's asking a question to check in. If you guys know that phrase from NLP, right? Called a tie down, right? Does that make sense? Is that what you're looking for? Is that what you want? Tie downs are great ways to end phrases where you're looking for some sort of agreement or something back with them.
Actually, funny thing, you mentioned tie downs. I actually, in agent attraction, started using tie downs as well in my emails and in my text. You know, what's really fascinating, what I'm beginning to see is if you click very well on a prospecting call with an agent, and if you send them an email saying, hey, I look forward to seeing you next Tuesday, whatever, let me know you got my email, ? Or let me know you got my text, ? Those that you click with and those you have a good feeling about will immediately respond. Maybe not immediately, maybe they'll respond throughout the day, but they will say, oh yeah, I got it, look forward to it, okay? If you don't get that, you pretty much know that agent is not going to show up for the Zoom meeting. You are, no matter how nice they were or whatnot. So whatever you are teaching and preaching here about buyers and sellers is applicable to human psychology, even in agent attraction. Irrelevant. It's all the same. There is nothing new under the sun.
I love it, Kevin, because you're right. It's all human interaction. It's all psychology, which is sales is sales is sales. That's why I've been fascinated with sales since I was in my early 20s. I'm 44 now. I believe that if you can improve your sales skills, you get more efficient with what you do. Number one, it allows you to connect more deeply with your clients, which is just more fun, but it also makes things go easier. Two, it all allows you to create more results with less time because you can get better results with fewer conversations, right? If you convert more of your listing appointments, you convert more of your buyer consultations into people hiring you as their agent, you have to go on less appointments. It's just more efficient, right? That's why I've always liked sales. It creates that efficiency. So let's go back. I want to close the loop on the buyer agent feature of I preview houses. Because you can sit down with a buyer and be like, hey, I preview houses. And they'll be like, cool, big deal, right? It's just like their seatbelts. You preview houses, it almost feels like a given. But if you put it in this context of the benefit first, right? Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, I'm assuming you're like most of my clients that one of the things you're looking for is to be as efficient as possible with your time as we go through this home search, right? I'm guessing that you don't want to waste hours looking at things that aren't a fit for you. And frankly, you probably don't have hours to do period because you're busy in your life, but yet you still want to get this move done, correct? Right? I'm asking a question, telling a little bit of storytelling. So right, you start with that. So is that correct? Yes. Perfect. One of the things I do to help save you time is I preview houses. So I always understand what the local inventory looks like, right? You might be browsing around online and you see something that you like. If I've already seen it, I can, as I start to see properties through your eyes, write that down, by the way, if you don't use that line in your buyer consultations, I love that phrase. I want to be able to see properties through your eyes, right? As I start to see properties through your eyes, if I preview the inventory and I know what's out there, then I can help save us some time from going and driving out to look at houses that truly aren't a fit. Do you see how that would help you in the home search to be a little more efficient? I know that probably sounded to some of you like, cool, I say stuff like that all the time. Some of you are like, go back and say it again. Watch the recording, write it down. But more importantly, practice writing this out yourself. I'm going to give you homework now and I'll repeat it at the end. But if you take two or three of the features that you do working with an agent, or so working with a buyer, working with a seller, Kevin just mentioned agent attraction, right? Features that you have in the agent attraction side, and you put them and you write out long form, the benefit statement first. As you do this just a few times, you'll get much more comfortable with this language. But do you see how much more powerful that was? To instead of just saying like, I preview houses, when you frame it up with the benefit first, it suddenly becomes like, ooh, that's great. Okay. Let's take, Kevin, you got something you want to jump in there with? You got a question or something you want to add?
No, actually. However, yes, I do, very quickly. It's interesting that the more I'm getting involved in, I don't produce. I've been in real estate for 25 plus years, no interest. So I'm into agent attraction. So when I saw the benefits and features, that kind of caught my attention.
Yeah.
When you have that pebble in the shoe, I came across a very, very interesting, somewhat contradictory statistics the other day. And they are, what are the top reasons that agents are switching companies? And it's not the split. It's not, more transaction. It is better leadership and culture, 26%, 27% better technology, and 33% better marketing support. Notice that there is nothing here, only 5% switch for a better split. Okay, that kind of blew my mind. Because, we kind of tend to maybe be mechanical with buyers and sellers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is the benefit. This is the benefit. This is the benefit. But we do not explain. We do not put flesh on those benefits. We do not. It becomes a feature, as you said, just like a seatbelt is a seatbelt is a seatbelt. So as I'm thinking about it, then I'm like, interesting. So maybe I should not be, when I'm talking to a buyer or a seller, maybe I should not be just vomiting these features, or to an agent when I'm talking to an agent, EXPing on an agent.
You're 100% right. It's the same on all sides, right? The same way that you would do it with a buyer seller, same thing in a recruitment scenario. It's going to be the same thing. So let's use those statistics you just gave. And I don't know where they're from. I haven't seen that study, but you can cite that study, right? I'll give you another statistic in a minute for the buyer consultation that all of you will be able to use before we wrap up. I'll give you one more good one on the buyer side, but let's do this stats you just said. I think, what was the percentage you said of agents who change brokerages because of they want better marketing? Like 33% of agents.
33% better marketing, 27% better technology, 26% better leadership culture, 5% better training, and only 5% better split or comp plan. Now, this is actually an interesting point. This is probably what people say after they switch,
right?
Why they did it. But before they switch, there's perception versus reality, one thing. And so it may be quite possible that people will justify that they switched already, not because of a commission.
Sure. And for the sake of discussion, we have 10 minutes this morning. It'll be hard to unpack the truth of knowing. I mean, I don't know where the study is. I don't know how they researched it, but I just want to show how to use this one statistic to, if you're in a recruitment conversation, how you could turn it from feature into a benefit, right? Because the feature is 33% of, the feature is we've got marketing that's going to help you. That's the feature, right? And I'm going to combine tech and marketing in one, right? KV Core, whatever the platform is, we got marketing that's going to help you. Most people who are recruiting, they use some version of that statement. Let me show you my marketing platform that's going to help you get more business, right? If you frame it up with a statistic first, which is, I read something interesting the other day. Did you know that 33% of agents who change brokerages say that they were looking for better marketing as the number one reason why they switch brokerages? So let's take a look at the marketing that we offer here, which is we offer X, Y, Z, feature. But just by throwing that statistic first, even though you're kind of taking it a different way, I'm taking that statistic and I'm putting it as a hook to open the conversation about the benefit versus feature. You're putting a context around, not just giving, hey, here's all this stuff we have. It's like, look, most agents are thinking about this. I wonder if you're feeling the same way. Let me show you what we have. Does that make sense?
And the same thing that you can apply any statistics you come across there, you can apply to the buyer and the seller, whatever way the direction of the market is. Yeah. And whatever your statistics are in sales, whether you sell 97% of the listings or you sell them at 100% asking price or not, it's irrelevant. You just turn it around as a benefit specifically tailored to that individual.
Correct. All right, I'm going to do one for the buyer side. You can use this on the listing side as well, but I like this on the buyer side. Let's use communication as a feature. If I say, here's one of the things that is great about me is I communicate really well. I always answer my phone. First of all, everyone watching this is going to say, I always answer my phone, even though I know some of you don't, right? But everyone who's watching this, you're like, I always respond to my text. I do. It's me. I'm like always responding quickly, right? You guys, that's you guys. You always respond quickly. Okay, cool. So if you sat with a buyer and you said, I'm always going to respond to your text really quick, that's a feature. It's like saying you got seatbelts. It's a given. But when you frame it up in the context like this, because I saw a study a few years ago, National Association of Realtors did a study that said what was the reason why a buyer would not use their same agent again, right? What was the number one reasons why a buyer wouldn't use their same reasons again? The number one reason why a client would not use their same agent again was because of poor communication. I believe it was about 65% of people surveyed said that they would not use their same agent again because of poor communication. So one of the things that I pride myself on, and one of the things that I take very seriously, is the way that you and I communicate. Not only will I send you proactive updates throughout the week, but anytime you reach out to me, I'm incredibly fast at replying on my phone. I know that time is of the essence in real estate. And so communication becomes one of the most important things that is going to be between you and me in this relationship. Do you see how that giving it some context to that frames it up, guys, makes it a little more important, where you're not just be like, hey, I communicate well. By citing a study, by asking a question, or by telling a story, it makes a dramatic difference in how someone will hear the feature you're about to give them. You're still going to give the feature. You're still going to say, we got seatbelts. You're still going to say, I communicate well. You're still going to say, I negotiate, right? I negotiate is one of my strong points. That's a feature. Giving some context around it. Maybe you tell a story first of a time when you did a great negotiation. Like, hey, let me tell you a quick story about, a client I had whose goal was to save money. And here's how we did it when we got into negotiation. We did this, we did that. By the way, one of the things that I'm going to do when we work together is I'm going to negotiate very strongly on your behalf, right? To the market conditions to only dictate there's, so much we can do, but to the best of our ability, we're going to negotiate hard, right? We're going to make sure we get every dollar saved for you that we can. Is that what you're looking for when you hire your next agent? Right? Ending of the tie down. I got about 5 minutes. We have to go to the total limit. I want to see if we got questions on this. I'm hoping this is just like this basic concept. I get it. I just got to remember to do it. Or this is new. I haven't really thought about, am I feature dumping on people? Am I just listing off all the stuff that I do and not giving them any context? If there's no questions, I'm going to give you one last thing then, and then we'll wrap it up maybe a few minutes early. But this is, if you're ever feeling like you are listing off too many things, you probably are. That feature dump, right? You can be a lot more effective in sales, whether it be Kevin, agent attraction, whether it be working with buyers, whether it be sellers, by doing fewer features and spending more time setting up the context around those fewer features. Does that make sense? So if you ever look critically at like, ooh, that didn't go well. Why didn't it go well? It might be because you jumped too many things on. Instead of taking the time to ask questions, find out what's important to them first, and then just going a lot deeper on 2 or 3 things versus giving them 6 to 8 different things that you do. So I'm gonna go back to your homework. And if anybody wants to do their homework and send it to me, you guys can DM me on Workplace, right? If you're part of our EXP family, you could send a message to me on Facebook. You can, I'm Jesse Zagorsky on any platform, right? However you want to send it to me, write out a couple of these feature and benefit statements. It's amazing how much you will learn by just taking the time to actually pick a feature and write it out, and then look and reread it. Be like, does that make sense? Is a better way I can set up the benefit, and then write it out again. Write out a long form version of that, send it to me. I'll give you some feedback. I'll happily help work with you, right? Laura, this will take you maybe 10 minutes a day for a week. It will dramatically change not only your copywriting, but the way that you present the buyers and sellers. It really is effective. Any last questions before I wrap up? All right, Kevin, I love what you put in the chat box. We have the hero's journey there, right? When you're storytelling, that's a topic for a separate conversation, but right? If you're doing storytelling, who's the villain? Who's the hero? Who's the villain? That's part of that empathy as you're trying to figure out empathy, trying to get into their headspace. What's the hero with 1,000 faces? I don't know that one.
Joseph Campbell, he wrote a book in 1949, A Hero with 1,000 Faces. And basically there's a protagonist, the main character, that is always facing some unforeseen calamity, okay? And no matter which direction, which culture it comes from, what time frame it comes from, what era it comes from, there is always an evil guy, a good guy, and there is always some sort of a obstacle that he needs to jump over. And eventually things either happen, as they do, they happen, come out all right, or they just go down the drain. But regardless, the hero is always doing something. So is the villain. So
I love it. I love it, love it, love it. Guys, have fun with this. That's the most important part. Have fun with this. If you get creative with your storytelling, working in the hero's journey, you get creative with the stats you reference, the way you structure the benefits, make this your own, right? You don't have to parrot back the words that I said. Make this your own. Tell it in your own language, and it'll make a difference the way you communicate, the way you copyright. All right. Have a wonderful day, guys. Good to see you all. Have a good morning. Bye, guys.
Thank you, man. That was awesome.
All right, good to see you, Kevin. Bye, Laurie. Bye, Debbie. Darius, good to see you guys. If you'd like more information or to get connected to the Agent Power Huddle, join our free Facebook group. This call was designed for the agents in our EXP organization, but open to any agent from any brokerage. If you're a guest and you're interested in learning more about EXP or our specific resources within the Agent Collective, reach out to the person who invited you to this call to get more info. Produced by the Agent Collective Media Network.